Good evening, everyone. It's great to have you all with us this evening. This is the last of our introductory sessions that are being provided by Providence as you as deacon candidates and spouses enter into your formation program and your experience, your clinical experience in our Providence hospitals, particularly with your ministry in Eucharistic ministry throughout Orange County. I'd like to begin by thanking you for your participation. And tonight we have a great presentation in line. We have a mission leader from St. Joseph in Orange with us tonight, Cathy Fletcher. She's the Chief Mission Integration Officer for St. Joseph Hospital in Orange. But before we do that, it would be good, I think, tonight if we would introduce ourselves to Cathy and maybe just share a little bit about the program so far, just in a couple words, couple sentences, where you're at with this, and so that we can kind of give Cathy a little idea. Cathy, these gentlemen and their spouses are part of the Diocese of Orange Deacon Formation Program, and they're studying to serve the church in various ministries. And the purpose of our formation program tonight is to help them understand a little bit more about Catholic healthcare that they're going to be working in with us, but also to include them in the mission and who we are as part of Catholic healthcare for a better understanding. And tonight's presentation, friends, is going to really feature Catholic identity and our mission. But before we begin that, again, Cathy, why don't you wave to everybody? See, Cathy, and I'm going to give Cathy an opportunity to share her a little introduction after all of you just quickly do a brief introduction and maybe a little bit about what you've discovered so far in the program. And Michael Benincourt, let's start with you.
Let's see, where'd you go? There you are. Hello, Mike Betancourt. I'm a deacon candidate at the St. Polycarp Church in Stanton. I work in healthcare as well. I'm a director of clinical engineering for Agility Health.
Father Michael St. Paul still there?
No, he's at Holy Trinity in Ladera Ranch, but he was the one that got me into the program.
Okay. Well, Michael and I have known each other since we were 16.
Very cool.
We worked together at Disney for 20 plus years before he became a priest, before he heard his call.
Well, I will actually see him tomorrow night for dinner, so I'll let him know you said hi.
Okay, great.
Michael Gilmore.
Good evening. My name's Mike Gilmore. I am a deacon candidate over at San Antonio de Padua Catholic Church, and been listening to a lot about Providence and its mission, which has been great. I too am in healthcare. I work for a large mechanical contracting company, and we do lots of work with Providence and other healthcare systems, doing air conditioning and plumbing systems.
Great. Joseph and Patricia Seminara.
Hi, my husband will be here momentarily. We are at St. Catherine's in Laguna Beach, and we were going to Laguna Beach Hospital, but we were redirected, and now we're going to Providence in Mission Viejo. We started last Saturday with Father Jack, and we're going back again this Saturday.
Father Jack Sewell?
Yes.
He was at St. Joe's before. He is a wonderful, wonderful man, wonderful chaplain.
He really is. We're enjoying our time with him.
I'm so glad. I miss him.
I'll let him know.
Kimberly Stromsville.
Hello.
How are you?
David.
Hi.
This is Kimberly.
Hi.
And we're part of San Francisco Solano Church down here in Rancho Santa Margarita. And
way south.
I'm not in any healthcare business like my other counterparts, but I can pretend to be.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm an airline pilot, and we're excited to be here, and we're still working with the system to find a place for us. So
working through that.
Great. Amy and Israel Rodriguez.
Hi, we're from St. Irenaeus Parish, and I'm serving in we are serving in St. Jude's in Fullerton.
Great.
Eucharistic ministry.
Great. Hi, John and Maggie Lee.
Hi, we are John and Maggie. We are from St. Angel Marici in Praia. I'm a retired physician, and both of us serve at St. Jude on Tuesdays for about a month now. And so it's been pretty good experience visiting. And there's a lot of people who are very appreciative when they get Holy Communion. They change when you say you are there for Holy Communion for them, and their eyes just light up. It's a wonderful thing to see, and it's a blessing too.
Great. Juan and Esmeralda. Juan?
I think he's on mute.
Hello?
There you go.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
Do you want to introduce yourself, Juan?
Oh, okay. So I'm Juan. I'm the program coordinator for the diaconate office, and I'm just here to make sure the Zoom's working.
Okay, great. Chris Shirk.
Hi, Chris. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Chris Sherrick, go to Holy Family Catholic Church in Orange. And not involved with the medical industry at all, just an engineer. And my wife, Tana, she's a school teacher teaching kindergarten at St. Irenaeus.
And you've begun your ministry at St. Joseph's in Orange, right?
Not yet. We have just gotten all of our healthcare records together and immunizations sorted out, because that took a long time, because hate to say it, our healthcare system doesn't move that quickly. And there was lots of mistakes along the way. So.
Well, it's happening. That's great. Thanks,
but
Chris.
It's happening.
Yes, thanks, Chris and Tana. Welcome. Alfredo and Rosita?
Yeah, we're from St. Vincent de Paul in Huntington Beach. And I've been serving St. Joseph for about a month now. And it's been a great experience.
Wonderful. Vernon Atwood.
Hi, it's Vernon and Grace Atwood. Grace can't be here tonight, but we have a business where we have caregivers. They take care of mostly elderly, but we've been serving at St. Jude's every Tuesday, and we love it. And like John said, when we show up and we say you want communion, especially if there's other family members too, they really light up. It's a beautiful thing.
Wonderful. And Jim and Liberty.
Good evening. My wife's in the other room, Liberty, but we're from St. Hedwig in Los Alamitos. We're scheduled to work at or to minister at St. Joseph. It's taken a while to get our paperwork for some reason, probably because I'm a lawyer. I think that's really causing it. I think it's because I'm a lawyer. And my wife is actually an RN at Miller's Children's Hospital. And so we're looking forward to the ministry, and hopefully that'll happen beginning next week sometime.
Great. And Bob and Olga.
Hi, we're from St. Joseph's in Placentia, and we've had a couple of sessions at St. Jude's, and it's remarkable how many everybody's different, and so I'm getting kind of in the swing of things. You never know, what you're gonna come across, and it's been great. The sessions, one of the sessions that we had, really kind of set me up, or at least enhance that idea that you got to come in gingerly and come in listening instead of maybe talking, and that's been working out good.
Wonderful. Okay, Hugh Nygwin. Hugh Wynn.
Yes, good evening. Yes, my name is Huing Nguyen, and my wife, Antrio, on the other one. We serve in the Fletcher segment in Westminster. I just recently got a badge, so hopefully by this weekend I have a first training For some reason, my wife, she haven't happened yet. I guess we have to contact them, see what is the hold up. But other than that, we excited to serve in the hospital.
Great.
Thanks.
Peter Morales. Hi, Peter.
Hi, good evening. I'm Pete Morales, longtime listener, first-time caller. I'm a deacon candidate from Christ Cathedral. I am a Jungle Cruise alumni. I don't work in healthcare, but have partaked in the services as being a patient at St. Jude, where they saved my life. I haven't got badged yet. I'm still waiting to hear back from St. Joseph's. And to be honest, I've had faster service at the VA and the DMV. So I don't know what the deal is over there, but glad to be here and buying what you're selling. Thanks.
And Trio, is it on Trio? On A-N-A. Oh, that's Peter. Okay.
Yes, Aunt Trio, that's Hui's Win's wife.
Oh, okay. Great. Anybody else anybody that we missed?
This is Kevin and Carmen.
Hi, Kevin and Carmen.
We're having trouble with our video, but we can hear you just fine. We're from Our Lady of Guadalupe in La Habra and assigned to St. Jude's. And Cathy, I'll just tell you that my mom taught all the St. Paul's at St. Justin Martyr. And I went to school with Nancy St. Paul. I'm also a healthcare attorney.
Wonderful. Well, great. And Maria Villanueva.
Hello.
Hi, Maria.
How are you?
Great.
I just got home from work, so.
Welcome. Nice to have you with us. Great. Good. With us tonight is Cathy Fletcher. As I mentioned earlier, she's the Chief Mission Integration Officer at St. Joseph's in Orange. But before we begin that, I'd just like to preempt a little bit of the discussion that we've had so far. Some of the difficulty that we've had with onboarding has been complicated by a new HR system that we have, and it's a badging system, onboarding, and everything else that throughout Providence. And it's kind of complicated our onboarding system. So it really wasn't running as smoothly as we had hoped it would, but day by day, and we're remaining steadfast and hoping that we can get everybody in real soon. So I just would encourage you to visit with the liaison, the Eucharistic Ministry liaison in the specific ministry where you're at if you're having problems, and try to work with them. So with that, tonight, friends, Cathy Fletcher, would you like to just do a brief introduction? And then I'm gonna just turn everything over to you, Cathy, tonight, and begin your presentation. That would be great.
Thank you, Father Tim. And so I have been with St. Joseph Hospital for about 14 years now. So in the healthcare world, I'm still a newbie. The majority of my career was spent with Disney, 20 plus years there. And then I've worked for other large organizations like Home Depot and Schools First Federal Credit Union, if you're familiar with them. They're a great not-for-profit in our local Orange County area. And so my background has been primarily in human resources, organizational leadership, organizational development, succession planning. And so with that, that's kind of how I came to St. Joe's. And what I realized about entering into healthcare is that people are people. And so all of the skills that I had learned in the other businesses were directly applicable in healthcare as well. It has been really a pleasure to serve. About 6 years ago, I transitioned into the mission area. Our focus has really been on organizational culture and how we make sure we stay aligned with our Catholic identity. And so that's been an area of passion and an area for me that I've just had the pleasure to serve in. And so tonight I have the opportunity to share with you a mission fidelity assessment that we conducted, and we did it throughout all of Providence. And the mission fidelity assessments really our opportunity to kind of hold up the mirror and say, if these are our professed values and vision statement and mission statement, how well are we doing? How well are we measuring up against that? And the mission fidelity assessment was developed by Catholic Health Association. So kind of an objective party coming up with the categories and the criteria. So I just want to be able to share my screen if we can figure this out, if I can master this. Here we go. I think I got it. So let me hit share and we'll see if we can kind of walk through some of the slides for the mission fidelity assessment. Okay, it's not advancing. So I'm wondering, let me stop sharing and go to, there was one other option here. So let me try this one and see if maybe this one will let me advance. Sure. Not in presentation mode, but I think it's going to let me move from slide to slide a little more easily, perhaps. Maybe. Zoom slideshow.
You can probably use your arrows.
Okay, got it, I think. Hopefully you can see my screen and I'll just talk through these. I really want to spend time at the end for you if you have questions about how we do it, why we do it, you know, how each ministry kind of measures up, what our challenges are for the future. But it's really about looking at what we are doing. The mission fidelity assessment, as I mentioned, was developed by Catholic Health Association. And so they have 7 core categories that were their premise. And each category had between 15 and 30 questions. So it was a lengthy assessment. The questions were qualitative, they were quantitative. We did focus groups. Some of it was interviews, interviewing multiple people, trying to really create a benchmark and an understanding for how well we were measuring up against the criteria. And so it really is about making sure that when the patients come to us, that they feel our Catholic identity and that we really are differentiated. Our caregiver experience, that we're creating a great place for them to serve, and that they feel that their faith is enriched by being on our campus. Upholding our ethical religious directives. So this is kind of a big category for us because it's a really important differentiator, and we want to make sure that we are living in alignment with our ERDs, that we are doing the appropriate discernment when we have issues that might be in conflict. And so that's been a huge focus for us. We also looked at health disparities in this assessment. Are we actively trying to bridge those disparities? Do we understand what they are? How are we looking at our community and trying to identify them? And then are we serving the poor and vulnerable? Formation is another important piece to this. And so we have a number of formation programs. It was an area that we all did very well in because they are corporate programs that help us with our formation, both on the frontline managers, leadership. Everybody has different types of programs that they go through. And then really that we are serving as a ministry of the church, that we are a positive representation of Catholicism. You know, I always think, you know, we try to serve like we're a magnet, wanting to draw people to us, that the things that we do are welcoming, that they are endearing, and that they are Christ-like. And so our Sisters of St. Joseph, one of their mantras has been to serve the dear neighbor without distinction. And when I share that in orientation, I always share that, you know, that while they did have a lot of faith, flexibility, and foresight, they were not, this was not a nod to DEI, right? It wasn't about diversity, equity, inclusion. When they say without distinction, they're referencing Matthew 25:40, where Jesus says, what you do for the least of these, my brothers and sisters, you do for me. So are we seeing Christ in every person that we serve? And are we serving them like we would serve him? And so that's really the foundation of some of our early formation at St. Joseph Hospital. So with the assessment, each ministry forms a team. We had multiple teams at each ministry kind of dedicated to the different categories, and then looking to find where we had, you know, objective data that could answer those questions, where we needed to do interviews. Maybe we needed to interview patients. We look back at patient comments on patient experience surveys. All of those things then were aggregated to give us kind of the results. And what we were looking for are the areas that we were doing well, and then the areas that we had some real opportunity in. And then for all of the 11 ministries in Southern California, we created action plans. And so there's some action items that we all shared and some that were unique to each ministry based on that ministry's assessment. Make sense? Okay, so I want to just start. I know you probably in some of the other presentations have seen this, but our mission statement is really foundational to us. And so I've worked a lot of different industries, and sometimes the mission statement is really just the poster on the wall. And in other places, the mission is really woven into the decision making, and it really becomes foundational for who we are and making sure that we're living in alignment with that. And our mission as expressions of God's healing love, witnessed through the ministry of Jesus, we are steadfast in serving all, especially those who are poor and vulnerable. And we look at healthcare and recognize that probably everybody who's in a hospital bed feels a little bit vulnerable. And so that's why when you come in as deacons, when you come in to offer prayer, when you come in to offer sacraments, anything that you're bringing to them, that is so appreciated and so well received. We know that when people are in a hospital bed, and they're feeling a little vulnerable, that it is a time that people often reconnect with their faith. And so we want to make that as easy as possible for them. And that's a great moment and opportunity for us to serve them and serve them in a Christ-like manner. And so our vision, health for a better world, really important to us. As we saw through the pandemic, it really does matter what happens on the other side of the globe. And, that rising tide lifts all boats. So for us to be healthy here, we need other people to be healthy in their countries as well. So how do we share information? How do we share best practices, resources, medications? All of those things is really important. We are kind of all on the same team. And so we have to really act like that in how we engage with each other. And then our values, compassion, dignity, justice, excellence, and integrity. Again, we really try to weave those into our decision making. We look at how we're treating each other, so that we're treating each other with compassion and dignity. And then the same is true of our patient caregivers. So it has to be full circle, and it has to be in every interaction, not just our patients, but how everyone interacts as a team. And we've actually had feedback from patients that have said, I felt safe in your hospital because I could tell the doctors and nurses liked each other and respected each other, and that they felt that sense of collaboration. And when you're kind of hanging on their every word and you're watching those behaviors, those are really important attributes. And it's really important that we align our values even with the Catholic social teaching. And so when we do orientation, because many of our caregivers are not Catholic, I always share a little bit of the Catholic social teachings about human dignity and believing everyone is created in the image of God. And one of my favorite lines is that cultural discrimination is not compatible with God's design. And so just little elements from it that helps them see that there's a unity, and you don't have to be Catholic to share that desire to see all people treated with dignity and respect, and that all people have access to healthcare, and that when they come to our hospitals, they are going to feel that that difference that God's love makes in any situation. So on the technical side, here's a list of the 11 ministries with each mission leader. And then each chief executive. So as mission leaders, we were the ones that were responsible for gathering all the data, making sure that it was aggregated, that it was reported correctly. We shared it with our chief executives. We shared it with our hospital boards. We've shared it with our caregivers, making sure that everyone understands why this is so important to us to hold up that mirror and make sure we truly are living in alignment with what we profess and what we do. Some of the comments that caregivers made and leaders made about the mission fidelity assessment, it's that why we do it and how we do it. It makes sure that in difficult times when there's tough decisions that we're still making the right decisions on behalf of our patients and on our behalf of our community. Having great pride in how we serve. We learned a lot. And some people really reconnected with that purpose and their calling through this process. And so really making sure that all of our caregivers feel connected, that they, we talk a lot in our hospitals about, a job, career versus a calling. And so sometimes there are times in life where you just have to have a job, other times where you're fortunate enough to have this career. And then there's those times where we really feel that we are called to this moment for this purpose and to serve in this way. And so we actually just did our caring at St. Joseph Hospital, and Sister Marion did our reflection for us. We videotaped her talking about her calling and how one of the questions we asked each person was, how do you know you're where it wants you to be? How do you know you're serving in the right place? And it was really refreshing to hear people's responses to that. And then we spent time with all of our caregivers saying, how do you know you're where God's called you to be? And, like I said, it is just an interesting question that helps people to really reflect on their journey. How did they get there? Because oftentimes it's not a straight line, like myself, like Father Michael, again, we worked together. Our birthdays are 2 days apart, and we started at exactly the same time when we turned 16, and really just had a great opportunity to work side by side. And, for a long time, he had a great career. And then he heard the call, and he, I can remember working with him. He and I opened the Disney store at South Coast Plaza together as manager and assistant manager. And, he went to church every morning before he came in for his shifts, And so somebody who's always just been so faith-filled, and then hears the call and really recognizes that they're meant to serve in a different way for the second chapter of their life. And so, we hope that our caregivers feel that and connect that, because it helps them to connect with our patients in a different way. And what some of our caregivers shared when we asked, how do you know you're where God meant for you to be and that you're in the right place? I mean, they really talked about feeling that they love their patients and the connection that they have in the way that they feel validated in that. Those are the things that sustain people through, times like COVID, where, it was a tough time to be at a hospital. But what we really tried to talk to our caregivers about is that, maybe we are supposed to serve at this moment in history, at this time, in a unique way that maybe other people wouldn't have the ability to do. And so when you're stepping in that first 9 to 10 months before there was a vaccine, it was a lot to ask of caregivers to come to work every day and be exposed to something. We were still changing our mind and gathering data, like CDC came out with different, and you're like, okay, well, now we're going to double mask, and like, you're like, my goodness. And first it was 10 feet, then it was 6 feet. And so they're out, but people who really had a conviction about what they needed to do were gracious about doing it. And that's where that higher calling really comes into. So just to share, these are the Catholic Health Association reviewers. So it was, like I said, a very formal process. When we did our assessment, I submitted to the leadership, and then I submitted to the Catholic Health Association, and they reviewed everything. And then we had a phone call and talked about each category, went by line in the assessment to get their support and validation, or any areas that they had questions. Some cases for some of the ministry questions, so they had to go and gather data, look in different places for things to substantiate their reports. So those, we had four different auditors from Catholic Health Association that audited our work. So the basic kind of key themes and key findings, some of our strengths was community health. We are very strong in that area. We have our local clinic, and we have supported, as Sister Mary shared, which I didn't realize actually started 40 years ago. And she said that's how sometimes it's from God, is it lasts. Things that aren't from God don't sustain, but things that are, there's a real purpose, and we're blessed with that clinic. Spiritual support, our chaplaincy program is very strong. We have the clinical pastoral education programs. We have actually that on our campus at St. Joe's, and we have students elsewhere. So those are signs of sustainability and strength for us. We do have active ethics programs, and we have ethics committees on every campus, and we have regional support for our ethics. We're always learning. We're always focused on our ERDs, making sure that physicians call for discernment when there's a concern. And right now we have some new evidence in women's health care, and it's causing a lot of requests for a certain procedure that is now tied to cancer reduction. And so it's really important for women with a history of cancer to have this procedure done, but we do a discernment time with our physicians to make sure that we're met. And then formation, as I mentioned earlier, we have great formation programs at the hospital, and we do try to kind of create experiences for our caregivers. We're in the process right designing one that will be for all care. At St. Joe's, we have 3,000 frontline caregivers. And so, you know, to be able to pull them off for an hour or 2 hours to do function is expensive. But it is something that we are investing in as an organization. So we're really excited about that. We hope to roll out in 2023 this program, and it will go across all of California, basically. And then interestingly, some of the areas that we had opportunities are the same areas we had strengths. So in ethics, we want to be able to do more training for frontline care. And we also want to do some training with physicians in the ethics area, just to make sure that they're really understanding our ERDs and are in alignment. Community health, one of our strengths, but one of the things that we don't do very well is make all of our caregivers aware of all of the things that we're doing. So when we kind of peeled back that onion and started looking at the activities, there's a lot of financial investment, there's a lot of programs, partnerships. We do a full community health assessment every 2 years. So we know in consensus around each of the hospitals what the primary health needs are in each zip code. And so whether it's cancer, diabetes, heart disease, we know what the health demographic looks like. And then we know where the disparities are in the different communities. And so we use that data to help us create partnerships and programs, but we don't do a great job of sharing that internally with our caregivers so that they're aware of what we're doing in the community. And then diversity, equity, inclusion, we recognize that that was an area that many of us did not have programs. So we have looked at a goal around diversity, equity, inclusion. And so we have actually already rolled out, the goal was to have everybody attend implicit bias training. And so we had a corporate goal of 100% of our leaders was mandatory for them to attend the training. And then they wanted us to do 50% of our employee staff through the training this year, and then 50% next year. So we actually tied this to our Culture of Caring event, and we are at 98% of our leaders. We have a couple people who are on medical leave, so we're waiting to catch them up. And then we have 74% of our caregivers have done their training. So we created lunch bags and a huge banner with our diversity commitment statement. And if they did their training, they got a lunch bag, and we had them sign our commitment statement. And it's posted in our hospital lobby. It's like a 40-foot banner. And so we kind of drove participation that way. We like to, we don't like to make things mandatory. We like to, again, kind of be that magnet and draw people to our programs and have them want to do things for the right reason and want to do it because we want to be more aware. We want to have a greater understanding, and that we can better serve people when we do that, rather than saying this is training and it's mandatory. We try to message it a little bit differently. And we feel that we get a greater, not only a greater participation, but people actually really sincerely respond to the material better and apply it in their day-to-day interactions. And then the other area that we identified that was a challenge for us, and I think you guys will probably relate to this, we have automated a lot of things and it hasn't necessarily made our lives a lot easier. And so we recognized that there was a need to do a in-person orientation for our new caregivers rather than trying to do it all online. And I shout out to St. Jude because we were told not to do the in-person orientation. St. Jude never stopped. And as soon as we found out they didn't stop, we didn't stop either. So when this became a goal, many of the other ministries had to design an orientation program and we were already doing it. So we just kind of kept moving in the direction we were. And they could see actually the difference in turnover and caregiver engagement in our two ministries. And it's because we never went to the automated piece. But I know you're all experiencing it with some of the things that we've automated on the onboarding system. And we are really struggling with that. And any feedback that you have, I would welcome you to give it to me. Give it to the mission leader at your ministry. Mark Jablonski's at St. Jude. Mission Hospital is Austin, who I think you met last time. And we do share that feedback. In fact, I love the comment that it's that the DMV is faster, and that is priceless. And I think we feel that sometimes. And that's where we just have to be really honest with ourselves about how are we doing? You know, it doesn't help to say everything's fine if everything's not fine. And we are struggling with caregiver health, getting the appointments that we need for people, the screenings and stuff. So I appreciate your dedication and your commitments to overcoming the obstacles that unfortunately we have in the way right now. But know that when you do get through it, that our patients will appreciate it so much, and we appreciate it so much. And Peter, I can see your hand is up. Do you want to make a comment?
One thing that would probably help if they have a checklist and maybe a follow-up email to where our status is on it, because we've done our blood work, and when I call the number to talk to somebody, through hell, it's like trying to get to customer service at Disneyland, right? So any way that can help us. If you try to get your money back from Disney, they'll put you through that voicemail system, like the queue at Star Tours. Yeah. So if they can help out by telling us what the holdup is or what we need, we can facilitate that would help out greatly.
That is great feedback, and I will mention that to my fellow mission leaders. That the other piece I feel is to give you a point of contact at the hospital that you're going to be serving at. We have Edie Bennett, who is our administrative person in spiritual care, and she's amazing. And she's great at kind of knowing the internal channels to follow up and get things moving. So I think that would probably be a really helpful piece, is if we have someone that reaches out to you from our side that says, okay, here's where you are, here's what you need, and let me help facilitate and make those connections. Because we do have difficulty with it, even getting new caregivers onboarded in a timely manner. So like I said, I understand your challenge and frustration, and it is definitely a weak spot that we have also identified. We moved to a new HR system in July, and we are still recovering. So it has not gone as smoothly as we hoped. So I thank you for the feedback. So I want to just share a little bit about the actual results of, and I'm going to watch my time, the mission fidelity assessment. But what I put on the screen is just to kind of give you a sample of, what the categories are. So one is to promote and defend human dignity. You can see where that aligns with the Catholic social teachings. And so there's just kind of some key findings, an example of a strength, and then an example of an opportunity. And so each one of our categories, I'm going to just kind of go through the slides real quickly, because I want to save a few minutes for questions and anything that you would like to know about our mission fidelity assessment. So then it's promoting the common good. As I mentioned, our strength is that we spend a lot, invest a lot in care for our community, care for the poor funds, but the opportunity for improvement is to improve the communication side of that. Attending to the whole person. And so we know that we do a great job talking to our patients. We'll ask about their spiritual and emotional needs, other healing practices that might be important to them. But then where we have a gap is really making sure that all of our patients have advanced care directives. And, the time to complete an advanced care directive is not when you're critically ill. It's when you're, of sound mind in your 20s, 30s, 40s. That's when you want to complete your advanced care directive and have that on file. And then if you want to make any edits or changes to it later on, you can. But that's the best time so that not only the providers, our physicians and our nurses, but your family also knows exactly what you want when it gets closer to end of life. And there's just decisions that can be made. We have a great library of videos in multiple languages that we can show people that really say, okay, if you want to have life-sustaining treatment, if you code and you want a full code run on you, this is what that will look like. And these are the statistics that go along with a patient that's coded. And it really helps people to understand, or if you want tube feeding or don't want tube feeding. And it really helps to educate people so that they can make an informed decision. And that's an area of opportunity for us, is spending that time with patients to really go through those elements. Acting on behalf of justice. We, again, are magnet hospitals. We all do a great job with our quality in many areas. One area that continues to challenge, I think, all of our communities is the homelessness challenge and the growing numbers, and really trying to address that community and help understand more how we can better meet the needs for that community. We have done a lot at St. Joe's with transition of care. So we have a social worker, case manager, who is a dedicated navigator for a houseless community, because when we go to discharge, oftentimes we can't discharge back to the streets. It's not a safe place for them to continue their care. They may not be so critical that they still need to be in the hospital, and they can be released and discharged, but we want to make sure that they're going to a place that they can continue to be on, if they're on any medications, or if they have an open wound, making sure that that stays sanitary, those types of things. Care for the poor and vulnerable is near and dear to all of our hearts, and where we identified our opportunity there is with the diversity councils, and really beginning to understand more clearly some of the issues that different demographics face. Being a great steward of our resources. Again, we do a lot of wonderful things that are caregiver based, but we identified that we are not great at recycling. And so that's one of the initiatives that we're going to start to really work on as an organization. Serving as a ministry of the church. You probably recognize Bishop Van in the photo there. He was wonderful to come even during COVID and say blessings for our teens. Really meant so much to all of us. And we need to strengthen our relationships with each of the local parishes. Several years ago, I did some things with Holy Family and really enjoyed having an opportunity to help with some of their infrastructure and doing some leadership development and some succession planning discussions, giving them some food for thought, some of the tools and things that we use at the hospital. But we don't have a regular cadence for strong relationships, and we need to build that. And so then these are just some of the goals that we started. The orientation onboarding I mentioned, the implicit bias training, we're well underway with those. Each ministry came up with kind of their goals and the measures for those goals. And we actually have an online tracker that we fill out once a month that is a status update on where we're at on those ministry goals. So it isn't something that we did and then we put in a drawer. It's something that now has become part of our workflow and part of our discussions. So then I just want to share this closing reflection. And this is one that I shared at the close of my mission fidelity report. And it says, being a good caregiver isn't about grades and degrees. No book can teach you to cry with your patient. No class can teach you how to tell a family member that their loved one has died or is dying. No professor can teach you how to ensure dignity in giving someone a bed bath. Being a good caregiver isn't about the pills or the charting or the daily tasks. Being a good caregiver is about being able to love people when they are at their weakest and most vulnerable moments. And that's something like that we really talk to our caregivers about. And when we talk about our values, we talk about those examples of how those values really look from a patient's perspective. So it's one thing for us to say we value compassion. Would our patients say that they thought that that was one of our values by how we behaved? What is it that they see? And so that's the real opportunity, is to hold up that mirror and say, where do we do great? Where do we need to really strengthen? So with that, I'd like to just open it up to any questions that you might have about, how we hold ourselves accountable as a ministry.
You mentioned one of the areas for improvement was reaching out to the parishes. How can our parish reach out to St. Joseph, Providence, and how can Providence reach out to our parish? I don't understand how that could work. What are examples of that working?
Well, at one point years ago, like I said, I got to know, and I'm trying to think of his name. It was, he moved then down to Newport Beach. Anyway, he was one of the leaders there. And so I was, had some conversations with him. They had been so gracious to help us by sharing priests with us when we were short, or we had an issue with a patient, and they would send a priest over. And so we kind of built a rapport. And as a thank you, I went and sat with him, and we did some work on looking at his team, doing an assessment of the skills and strengths of the team. We did a full day retreat down in Newport Beach at the parish there. They allowed us to use a room down there so that we could be off campus, so to speak. And so just having that relationship, we did an event for Mary's Kitchen, and we connected with the youth at Holy Family, and they helped to stuff stockings at Christmas time with supplies like bars of soap and deodorant and toothpaste and toothbrushes and stuff. So we stuffed stocking, and we were able from the hospital, and the hospital supplied all the materials, and the youth got to do that as kind of a project for how they were helping. So it's just having that relationship. And Father Tim, I see you have your hand up.
Yes, and Israel, that's a great question, and a great, I appreciate that question, because one of the things that we're trying to do with this deacon formation program is to really involve you as deacons and deacons' wives in our ministry at our various hospitals. For instance, one of the things that I'm hoping that this experience of bringing communion to our patients will not only expose you to patients, but also to our staff, but also to our chaplaincy staff, that they'll be able to build a rapport with you. Say, for instance, if they have a patient that needs to visit with somebody about the RCIA, that chaplain could call you and say, Israel, would you take kind of mentor this patient we have at our hospital and see him afterwards? Or one of the things that we're hoping to do also, friends, is that as more and more people are being cared for in their homes, we want to build a network of support where parishes are going to be able to provide support to parishioners that have been in the hospital or in our clinics, that you could be able to be notified and said, you know what, they'd like to have a Eucharist, or they'd like to be visited in their home. So those are some of the partnerships we'd like to continue to build. And really, we're open to all kinds of ideas. You know, one of the things that some of parishes have done is they've had health fairs where they've asked our hospitals to sponsor a health fair in their parish, or a blood pressure clinic, or even to give a talk on the ethical religious directives, or Catholic social teaching, as part of a formation or a program. There's all kinds of possibilities, kind of the sky's the limit. So we're going to leave that up to you too. And if you have some ideas, please share them with your mission leader at your hospital, or with the Eucharistic Ministry liaison, or another chaplain that you're going to be working with. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. That's between the two of you, that's a really thorough answer, and it's basically the ball's in our court, but thank you.
Yeah, well, and it's in our court too. I mean, if there's things that we can help.
I meant that in a good way. Yeah.
Yeah, with the flu clinics, or vaccine clinics, that we had during COVID, it'd be ideal that we could partner together and have, your parishioners come over and get their vaccines if they wanted. There was another example that I had, and now I've just lost it. Senior brain, sorry. But all of those types of things. We do health screenings. Oh, advanced directives. That's the other thing. We did do that with one of the parishes where we had someone come out and they helped facilitate people filling out their advanced directive, and have just providing that information of what is it, why do you want one, how do you complete it, what are the key questions and things for you to think about and consider as you do this, and then additional forms that they could take home to loved ones so that people could all have those completed. So those types of things we just would be delighted to partner on.
This is, I think it was our third year we had a flu clinic at our church. And during COVID, it was drive-through. That was the best.
Yeah.
Just stick your arm out the window. This time we had to get out of the car, but they're by and large pretty successful.
Yeah.
Very convenient.
Right, parishioners really appreciate that.
Yeah, they do.
That's great.
Oh.
Other questions? Let me stop sharing my screen so we can see more people.
Cathy, you've given a great overview of the mission fidelity process. And friends, this process is being done throughout all of our ministries eventually over the next several months. When I say all of our ministries, it's all 51 hospitals throughout the 7 states. California kind of led the way. So one of the things that our sponsors will be doing is reporting to the Vatican on this mission fidelity assessment and how we truly are living our mission statement and our values. And friends, that's something that's part of our accountability also, is giving that report back to the Vatican on a yearly basis. Our sponsors do that. So there are many different ways, but that we strive to be accountable, and strive to live our mission. And really, it involves being steadfast and being caregivers and being united and collaborative and working with people like you, because we all are building and celebrating the reign of God. Any other questions or anything that anyone would like to ask, or any comments? Okay. Well, thank you. I do have a closing video that I'd like to share with you. But in summary, the last session, the 4 sessions that we've had with you have been an opportunity to really look at Providence as a mission organization, so that you can be mission-centered caregivers with us and share that mission, and to know a little bit more about who we are, but more importantly, why we do what we do, because we are expressions of God's healing love. And so I'd like to welcome you to Catholic Healthcare, and thank you again for this opportunity to share with you about our mission, but also to really enter in. And as I mentioned at the beginning, you really are pioneers, because this is new. This is part of that partnership that we're hoping to build, but also to give you, both as deacons and deacons' wives, the opportunity to experience Catholic healthcare as a minister with us, and to build that partnership in the future as we build health for a better world. So we are the people of Catholic Healthcare. You are the people of Catholic Healthcare. And I hope that you all have a great experience in your individual ministries with your Eucharistic ministry liaison. And also I know that the deacon program with Deacon Tom will be an opportunity for you to integrate those experiences in a theological way through theological reflection and sharing. So with that, before we go to our closing reflection, any other thoughts or any other questions? Cathy, again, I'd like to thank you and thank all of the mission leaders for their participation in this program. And as you all can see, Cathy is really a committed mission leader and committed to our mission as an expression of the love of God. And we appreciate her and all of our caregivers as we continue to the healing ministry of Jesus. So with that, I'd like to close with this reflection. It's a video reflection from Catholic Healthcare. Oh, shoot. Guess what? I lost it. I'm going to find it real quick, okay? Hang on.
To sprawling health campuses. Long identity, the one we share together. The one that calls us to provide compassionate, high-quality care. The one inspired by our belief in human dignity and the common good. We are the health providers who go looking for neighbors who are struggling, from urban clinics to sprawling health campuses, long-term care, and rural outreach. We assess our community's most critical health needs, and we take action. We are the collaborators, the innovators, the never give up, ever evolving, drawing on our founders' ingenuity, life transformers. United in the Catholic Health Association, we most passionately advocate for health care as a basic human right. Offer a home to those needing constant loving attention. Remove barriers that keep any woman, man, or child from thriving. Because we are anchoring the nation's health together.
Friends, we are together in our mission, continuing the healing ministry of Jesus.
In July 2006,
thank you.
Catholic Health
Have a great
Initiative
evening, everyone.
Its 10th anniversary.
Thank you, Father.
Milestone.
Thank you, Father.